Hello. Gonna do a book haul video today if you're interested. Some of the stuff I've had lying around for a little while, and some of it's pretty new. And I had a bunch of stuff coming in, and I was kind of like, I'm just gonna wait until most of this stuff arrives, and I'll just like say, hey, look at these cool books, and because I think they're cool. Um, so we're just gonna talk about that stuff. Probably pretty casual, nothing in depth, just kind of showing off a couple stuff, some cool stuff I got that I think is neat, and that's essentially the entirety of this. That's what this is going to be. Me saying this book is neat, and of course I'm wearing my Kenshi Beep shirt. If you know what Kenshi is, awesome. I love Kenshi, and Beep is the iconic Kenshi character. I'm still holding out hope that we'll see Kenshi 2 this year. I don't know if it's going to happen in 25 or not, but man, I don't know what. I really doesn't. Actually, I hope it doesn't come out because I will not get anything done if that game comes out. Moving on. So I randomly was just doing a search. Like, I want some sort of surrealistic like horror and fantasy. Like, what are the stuff? I'm like, I know there's got to be some stuff out there that I just don't know about that just isn't coming up on my radar or that I've skipped over. And something came up. A post came up from somebody talking about this book, and I did some research. And I was like, oh, I really want to read this book. I watched a really good, informative video about the writer Michael Shea on Outlaw Booksellers channel. It's a few years old, about 4 years old. Had a really great video talking about Michael Shea, pronounced like Shea butter, not Shea as I thought, but Shea like the butter. And that's Nif the Lean. Nift the Lean. This looks really good. Michael Shea looks like it'd be definitely something I'd really like. Something I learned from that video is that I didn't know that Michael Shea essentially wrote a sanctioned sequel to Jack Vance's Eyes of the Overworld. He literally called up Jack Vance and said, "Can I write a sequel to this book?" And Jack Vance is like, "Yeah, go ahead." And he did. I don't remember what the title of that book is offhand. I'll just get it wrong. But Niftaline is his own character, Sword and Sorcery series. This is really cool looking, and I haven't read it yet, but I'm really excited to read it. I have bad news for you, though. This is out of print, and it is not cheap. It was only because I became obsessed with this that I decided to pick this book up. I love I absolutely love this cover. Just absolutely love it. Follow the adventures of Nift Lean, the master thief whose felonious appropriations and larcenous skills will lead you through the Stygian realms to challenge your most lurid fantasies and errant imaginations. Just sounded really good. A lot of people who read it really had great things to say about it. So yeah, just this kind of not like good shape but not brand new paperback was expensive. If you want something nice, it's pretty dear, to be honest. There's really not been much. There's a collab. There's 3 volumes. There's 3 volumes in this series. The first 2 are collected in a separate book, but I really wanted this cover. I don't know why, because the other one, the collection of the first 2 books is a little bit more. But maybe that's a way to go. Maybe you could say, well, I'm getting 2 books for this price. I'm not going to say how much I paid because it's just painful. It's unreasonable, I think, how much I decided to pay, but I decided to pay that. So anyway, and there's also like I think Centipede Press did like a reprinting of this, and that's just like that is like into collector's territory and then beyond. I think that hardback of just this book reprinting, it's relatively recent, was like I was going for like 300 or 400 bucks. Now that is aftermarket because you can't buy it new. Hopefully, I see that some of Michael Shea's older stuff is getting reprinted, like Polyphemus, which I'm reading right now. Maybe I'll just do a video just on the story Polyphemus. So maybe there's some work being done there to kind of build up attention around Michael Shea before we get back to reprinting these. I don't know that we'll get a cover quite as epic and amazing as this cover, but anyhow, pretty cool. Maybe I'm talking too long about the same book. But anyways, Michael Shea, really excited to read some of his stuff. Really enjoyed Polyphemus. I've read some Michael Shea before. He had a story I read a long time ago, and then I reread that story not too long ago. It's in the a collection of Cthulhu-esque or Lovecraftian horror stories that are more modern setting that came out, I want to say in the 90s, but I could be wrong. Michael Shea had a story in there called Fat Face, and I remembered Fat Face when I reread it a few years ago. I was like, oh, I've read this story before, and it is a very memorable story. So Michael Shea is definitely has like touches on the bit of the grotesque. He's not like a splatterpunk writer, I don't think, but he definitely kind of can get under your skin a little bit in his style. His style is a little darker, but a very good writer. Really enjoyed everything I've read of Michael Shea so far. So Tanith Lee sounds like something I'm really going to like. So I've had this for a little while, but I've kind of been like, since I was on a sword and sorcery kick, I just kind of want to bring it up, and if nothing else, to sort of see if people want to hear about this book, and just sort of like to remind myself that I have this book. It's the writer I've never really heard of before, James Silky, or James Silk, perhaps. He's got an E at the end. But he wrote a officially licensed Frank Frazetta character novelization called Death Dealer. And I remember finding this at Half Price Books. This is not very recent, but I found this at Half Price Books, and I thought, oh, this is the kind of book that you don't run across very often. And I don't know that I got a great price on it, but it wasn't, I felt like it was okay. I felt like, okay, I'll pay that, sure. And I do remember reading the beginning of it, and it was interesting, an interesting take. In the age before Atlantis, maybe I should read this epically. This requires glasses and epic reading. I'm sorry. Hopefully you're okay with signing in for this. In an age before Atlantis rose, an age rife with sorcery and violence, the earth trembled beneath the all-conquering hooves of the Kizarak horde. And only one man, Garth of Ball, dares to confront the Kizatlances, to stand between the never-defeated armies in the lush valley that will, long millennia in the future, be known as the Mediterranean Sea. To save the peaceful people of the forest, Garth must dice with the gods, and the price he must pay is to become death made flesh, the prisoner of the horned helm. So it sounds really cool. And it actually was pretty good. I think I read a quarter, and I got distracted. Anyway, but I don't know if there's any interest in this book, but in hearing a review of it, it is, I'm sure it's out of print, because the price told me that it was probably a little bit out of print, but it was pretty good. And it's kind of neat that it's like Death Dealer, who was just sort of like this. I think Death Dealer was just like a character that Frazetta drew a painting for, maybe, and didn't actually have like any like literary property attached to him. So I don't know, pretty cool. Love Frazetta. I absolutely love Frazetta art. I mean, right? Anybody who likes Sword and Sorcery is like, oh yeah, I saw this Frazetta cover, and that's how I started liking Sword and Sorcery, right? By James Silk. There's Frank Frazetta and James Silk, so maybe he consulted with Frank Frazetta. One of the decisions I made this year for Christmas. I thought we had the Hound of Doom barking. Was to go ahead and pick up a complete edition. Here we go, of a manga that I really like. It was a good price to get everything at once and not try to hunt everything down. How many volumes was it? 23 volumes of Doro Hidoro, which I really like. So I've got just the first three over here by me. There's Doro Hidoro 1, 2, and 3. Essentially like in like modern times, sort of a alternate reality, modern-ish setting where there's magic and like these wizards like come into this city and basically just do sorcerer's experiments on people. There is a Netflix anime that's I think it's like the first three, or it's like so much of the arc. It's like a percentage of the arc, and that's all it has done so far. But I haven't kept up with it. But I actually started with the manga way before that series existed. And there's a couple characters. One of the characters has the head of basically like a lizard, and inside that head is a human face. And the guy who has the head of the lizard is trying to figure out who turned him into this lizard-headed person. And so he'll like find a sorcerer and like bite on their head, and like then the face inside his head, inside his mouth, looks at it and says whether that's the person who did it or not. This is a strange concept, right? And yeah, and so and him and this other woman who sort of beat up sorcerers and killed them are being hunted by these sort of assassins that are hired by this like high-level sorcerer, right? And so that's the sort of setup for the series. Really good, violent and gory, but well written and really, really interesting, right? I really enjoy this sort of unusual environment, humorous and dark, but I really like it. I'll do this book here. So today I'm doing this on at the very end of Valentine's Day, right? It's nighttime for me. Nighttime is the right time for me. But today was Valentine's Day, so my wife got me a couple things. First, she knows that I like black licorice, so she got me Scotty dogs. Scotty dogs are like the gourmet of black licorice. I love black licorice. Not the cheap stuff though. I just can't. I've become like a black licorice snob, so I can't eat. I can't eat cheap stuff. It just it doesn't. It tastes cheap to me. But I really like Gimbel's Scotty dogs. Those are really good. I also really like, it used to be a lot easier to find black licorice, but it's like gone. There was an Australian brand that was very popular that used to be like at Target and Walmart, and I haven't seen, I know at Target doesn't have them anymore, so I don't know what happened there. I cannot remember what I can't remember what the brand was, but they were everywhere. And then like an absolute favorite black licorice of mine is just like nowhere to be found anymore. I don't know where, I haven't really hunted it down, but there was a brand, sorry, this is licorice talk, isn't it? The reason I bring this up, in case you're wondering, is that I usually have, whenever I do a book haul, I'd always like get some black licorice and I have some. So I had a piece, but it gets stuck in my teeth. So I'm not going to send me like doing this the whole time, right? I just ate it and then we talk. But the brand that I'm looking for that I can't find is a brand called Kookaburra. And that they're almost like these licorice plugs. It's very unusual. It's more, the licorice is more melty. Anyhow, so I like black licorice, and those, unfortunately, I don't know why Australia has the market cornered on good black licorice, but they do. We have Twizzlers in America, and that is not good. So, the other thing that she got me, now that we're done, who knows if that licorice talk is going to make it, is a book that I mentioned I had one time, and she found it and picked it up for me. This is a great little book. This is a goofy little story that I remember reading as a kid. I thought, oh, that was such a good story. And that's this kid's book, right? And actually, she forgot, and she ordered 2 copies, and she forgot she'd already ordered. She ordered again, so I have 2 copies of this book now, and that's the Curse of the Were Squirrel, which oh no, sorry, this is just the Curse of the Squirrel. It's not the Curse of the Were Squirrel. One of these 2 people has done something else. Lawrence Yelp and Dirk Zimmer. I think one of them has done something else that's very big, but I don't know what. A monster squirrel is on the prowl. He's big as a grizzly, twice as mean, and he hates hound dogs. If he bites one when the moon is full, that dog will suffer an astonishing and awful fate, the curse of the squirrel. Watch out, Howie. I don't know, it was kind of cool. So she found that for me and got it for me, so it was kind of neat. What do we got next? Oh, for Christmas, my daughter got me this book, the first book in a series that we had talked about. We were both kind of interested in reading it. And so at some point I hope to get to it. I don't know when, but probably not real soon, but I do want to get to it this year if I can. And that's Peter V. Brett's The Warded Man. And that's part of the Demon Cycle. That's that is a very cool cover. And with a name like the Demon Cycle, I'm at least interested, right? It says, the time has come to stand against the night. At sunset, the corlings rise, demons who well up from the ground like hellish steam, taking on fearsome form and substance. Immune to mortal weapons, they burn with a consuming hatred of humanity. For hundreds of years, corlings have terrorized the night, slowly culling the human herd that sheltered behind the magic wards. Symbols of power whose origins are lost in myth and mystery. And it includes a bonus novella in this, The Great Bazaar. It just seemed kind of cool, and it was well reviewed. So I'm looking forward to reading this. We're gonna say maybe second half of the year. We'll see if we can get to it. Got 3 books from Hollow Press. Hollow Press is a independent publisher out of, I think, Italy, but I'm not. It's in Europe. I don't remember if it's Italy or Spain. And then with my luck, it's neither. But it's another book by Plastibo called Godhusk. Plastibo did Vermis. So Vermis, if you don't know about Vermis, is essentially a video game guide to a Dark Souls-like game that actually does not exist, right? So it's like you're buying this game guide like you would have gotten at the store or something off a magazine rack, and reading it, it's giving you tips and talking about different stuff. But the game, there is no game, right? And there's sort of a bit of a narrative in the book as it walks you through like the different challenges in this fictional game. The second volume, Vermis 2, was a little more narrative. It felt more as though you were getting an actual, it was not quite an actual like story that you were reading per se, but it was a little closer to that than the first one, which felt much more like more art piece or more art involved or more communication through the art and less through the actual text. And the second one kind of moved a little more into the narrative side, which was fine. I think it really did some actually pretty great stuff. I'm looking forward to a Vermis 3 that I'm sure is going to happen. This one feels a little bit more like Metroid, maybe. So some really weird alien stuff. Like totally, if this like if you like speculative biology, like if you like that kind of stuff, like Barlow's Expedition, or like was it, Dixon Dougal's Afterman. This is take that, but maybe just put a video game slant on it and make it a little bit more body horror esque, and that's what you're kind of getting here in God Husk. Really cool stuff. I mean, I really like Plastibo's art, and I love the sort of like presentation of these different things in the context of a game. Right? It sort of like organizes things for you in a sense that normally wouldn't be organized that way in a regular book. I think it's a really great way to do sort of essentially what is a speculative biology game or book. So anyways, just really cool stuff. So I'd like to do a review of God Husk. The next one from Hollow Press is Leigh, Leyre. L-E-Y, can you see that? L-E-I-Y-R-E, right? This cover is so gorgeous and evocative. I just love it. And this, I think, is kind of like, I wanted to say this is kind of like almost like Vermis is the game is almost can be used like a setting for like a D&D campaign or equivalent. This is kind of similar to that. I think it has a little bit more in the monster manual department. And just look at that. It's just beautiful. And these are, I mean, you have to pay shipping, right, to get it over here for the States. Of course, if you're in Europe, for example, maybe it's not so bad. The book is listed for 18 euros, which is super, super reasonable for how well crafted and well built this book is. The God Husk book, I guess since I'm on that subject, since these prices are actually current prices, it's only 15 euros. Depending on shipping, right? I would say if you're interested, you might think about maybe ordering a couple at once or finding if any of your friends want to order one and say, hey, why don't we order it together? We can save a little bit on shipping maybe. So there you go. They used to do a non-tracked and tracked shipping. Now they only do tracked shipping, which is good. I got very nervous a couple times when it was like, boy, that thing shipped like literally 8 weeks ago and I'm still waiting. And it's like the guy dropped it off in a flower pot outside. I don't know why, it wasn't even DHL. It was like FedEx or something. Yeah, I think it was FedEx. That sounds like something FedEx would do. I hate to say that, but it is something FedEx would do. So that's what we get. Here's another picture. Just gorgeous stuff. So I think this is more monster manual-esque. It says, what will become of us when the twin empresses will once again have access to our minds and learn about the conspiracy? Well, that doesn't sound like a monster manual. But I don't think I've lied on purpose. I think it is. I think maybe it's a setting that has other stuff too. I don't exactly know. Can you tell that I have not really poured into this book yet? It's okay, because when it comes time to review, then it's like a pure experience. And then the last one from Hollow Press is Age of Rot. This is very much like Vermis, very dark, very much. Yeah. See here, we've even got stats for. Yeah. So this is probably the monster manual one. Okay, all right. Yeah, see, here's your stats on this hand. That way. I really like the art in here. Very evocative. Very cool. So I'm excited about all those. Since we're on the subject, I picked up these a little while ago, and I'd like to do a review of them. I'm struggling with exactly what the hell I'm supposed to do to make a review of them. I'm going to show them here. If anybody has any idea, just let me know. I really don't know how to review these books exactly without a lot of extra work, but I would have no problem talking about them. And that's some RPG gaming books that I got from Japan that are in Japanese. The first one This was very inexpensive. I don't know when the original publication for this was. I want to say the 90s or late or early 2000s. And that's a RPG for Ys. I love Ys. Has some really great artwork in here. Very Ys-esque artwork. Let's see if I can find something good. A troubadour. Ooh, that white may not show up real good. It has some maps. I guess I'll show a bit of a map. And I don't know if these are like, ooh, I don't know if you can even see that. Hopefully you can. It has some pre-made maps that are numbered, so that's like keyed, so like keyed locations and keyed encounters, I guess. So like pre-made stuff. I love these little monster manuals in the back. It's like this turtle and this tiger. It's awesome. Love the art. It was very inexpensive to get this. It was not expensive, and actually I got this through. I do not remember the name of the company, but they essentially, it's sort of like a used. It's kind of like an eBay almost, is what I got, kind of the impression I got from Japan. And originally I was going to get it, and then the shipping was kind of high. It wasn't outrageous. Maybe it was, but it was not cheap. I'm like, And then I saw something, somebody said, yeah, usually just wait, they have free shipping all the time. I'm like, okay. I went back and literally the next day it was like free shipping. It must have cut like $20 or $30 off the price. I'm like, oh, well, I'm just going to buy it right now. Right? So I got this, and then I got, now I'm, especially, I'm kind of a little bit obsessed with the computer game Wizardry, right? I love that game, and all the like clones of Wizardry. And so when I found out there was a Wizardry RPG in Japan, because Wizardry, even though it's an American IP and company, I think at some point it was sold to Japan. And in Japan, it was huge. It was like, in fact, while it kind of like floundered and essentially is like dead in the States, or kind of dead, although I think there's a recent remaster. There is a remaster of the very first Wizardry game. But there's a whole host of games in Japan that follow the Wizardry tradition. Very harsh first-person dungeon crawlers, sometimes called blobbers, because your group, usually you control a party of characters, like 4 or 8 or something, 4 or 6, something like that, that sort of move turn-based as a blob through a dungeon, right? That's the idea, is that they're just one mass, and they sort of move. It's not like individual characters. And I found out there was an RPG, and I'm like, ooh, that sounds really cool. So I picked up the RPG, right? This was also not very expensive. This was, what did I pay for this? I think it was probably like $15 or $20 US, something like that. Not too much. I think Ys was definitely in the teens. I think Ys was like 13 or 14 bucks. It was like almost nothing. I mean, it is in Japanese. So if you don't read Japanese, you may find it has limited use. But I think it's super neat. Obviously, it was fun to use the take a picture with my phone and translate it with that. Get some interesting and fun interpretations. Here's a little bit of art. I'll show a little bit of the art from this one too. But I really enjoy and like Wizardry. I don't know how much I would use this, but I just was something like, sometimes you just want something, right? You're like, I just want this thing. I want a physical book that's Wizardry, and that's what I did. I got it. It looks like these are spells. That's what I'm guessing out of this. And it's got some like mapped encounters too. It does have a bestiary in the back, I think, and I think I was kind of like really interested in that. Yeah, I just love this, like these Wizardry monsters, right? And the game stats. I just always love. I don't know why. That's just really something I really dig. I just like, ooh, it's like, I love it. Give me more of this. This is so cool. This is like, I just love this kind of stuff. Monster manuals are like so much fun to watch. So anyway, so there's that. Now, with those two, there was another Wizardry book, but there was like no information on it. And this one was like a little more expensive, like 45 bucks. And I'm like, I don't know. It called it the Wizardry Dictionary. And I'm like, dictionary? And it had a couple pieces of art that made a post somewhere, and somebody was like, well, here, and they found somebody selling it somewhere else. Had a couple images, and I'm like, I'm gonna try it. And man, am I glad I did, because this is super cool. The Wizardry dictionary, or better, the encyclopedia. And essentially, it's just the classes and monsters from the Wizardry game. Like, if you're looking for kind of like a Wizardry art book, this is pretty cool. This is pretty cool, even though it's largely in Japanese. It's just neat. It's just so cool. I don't know. I just like it. I like the that style of Japanese fantasy art. I just think it's fun. And it even has like the classes and stuff in the beginning. Let's see if we can get some here. Yeah, but I have a great affection for Wizardry. This is not all gaming books from here on out, by the way. Small gaming section we're gonna talk about. Yeah, and it was really fun to like use the translation of my phone to translate this stuff, because you could tell it's like it's not doing a great job of translating it, and it would say some really goofy stuff. Kind of like when Chris and I were looking at the Japanese cover for the Sword of the Lictor, and it said policeman's sword. It's like stuff like that. You're like, policeman's sword. That was so funny, like policeman's sword. It's like, what kind of policing are you doing, sir? Anyhow, you know what? Somebody should write a damn book called The Policeman's Sword. They couldn't get in trouble for it because it's not, whatever. So anyways, those 3 Japanese gaming books, I think they're super neat. I would love to maybe give some more dedicated time to them. I just don't know how I would do it, because I can't read Japanese. I can only read it when my phone translates it. So I guess I could try to learn Japanese. It's a lot of work to read a gaming book, though. But sometimes I can find, you know what, and that's something we talked about too, on that Sword of the Lictor video I did with Chris. Is there's so many amazing sci-fi covers for books, classic sci-fi sometimes, that have these covers in Japan. I mean, the Japanese covers are just so outrageously cool. Like, man, it looks good. I mean, I'm sure we have really awesome, cool covers too that we're just spoiled by. We're so used to seeing, right? They're probably like, look at those Frazettas, maybe, or something. But I mean, I've seen like some Japanese, yeah, like literally Conan stories published in Japan. And I'm like, oh my God, I want that book just because of that cover. But I'm like, well, that seems silly. You can't read the whole, like, why would you order a book just for the cover? Like a whole hardback book. I'm like, you do know that you won't be able to do anything except put it on the shelf. This is true. Okay, don't point out the obvious to me. All right. Here, I'm going to do these 2 next because they are big. An artist I really like. I picked these up. These are really cheap. I probably will do a review of these books in and of itself. It's just art, mostly an art book review. An artist called Victor Ambrose. That's right, Victor Ambrose. And he does this amazing sort of watercolor art, usually of like traditional European, like myth and legend, or Western myth and legend stuff. So this has got that cellophane on it. This is his cover for Robin Hood. And the cover, that is the way all the art in the book is. And there's art on every single page. And it's just gorgeous. I mean, and here's the thing. I just picked this book up. This like literally showed up in the mail like 2 days ago. Okay. There's tons of them available. If you're interested in this, they go for $10 hardback, right? It's probably a kid's book. So like a young adult book, a kid's book, right? So the reading itself is probably not super. There is text, but it's not like you're not getting. Oh, this is written by Bernard Miles. I don't know anything about Bernard Miles. It's just sort of like a recounting of the myth of Robin Hood here, for example. Just gorgeous. It has wraparound art too, I should say. So it has that cover. I guess I could have done it this way. And isn't that just beautiful? I mean, I just think it's amazing. Amazing. He did another one. He did a few. This isn't the only thing he did. He did King Arthur. And these are really, really amazing. They're just so good. If you like, so this is retold by James Roden. I'm just not good at coming up with the right pronunciation. Never have been. If I haven't learned it by now, I don't know if I'm going to learn it yet. But it's not for lack of trying. Right. So if you think I mean, listen, I know that they're meant for probably like middle school or like or something. You know, was like maybe even a little beyond that, just a little bit. I feel like an adult could read this and enjoy it, and the art is just amazing. Oh yeah, here's some Green Knight stuff. So, again, this was less than $10. And I ordered also his Iliad. I've heard his Iliad is really good, so that's in the mail. I would like the show, but I'm not going to wait. That one's in the mail, so when that comes in, I'll probably take a day and just kind of talk about each of them. Not really having read them, but just really to talk about the art. And I've got another one of his books too I'd want to talk about. So Victor Ambrose, you can look for just search him on whatever site you want to and see if you can find some good deals. If you like that art, you can get some. I've got one. He's got a book called The Book of Costume or something like that, and it's just like him drawing illustrations for like through like Bronze Age up to like I think it goes all the way up into like late 1800s, and just drawing different the clothes that people wore, right, and different things. And it is just a pleasure to look through. I don't know, maybe there's a gaming utility there or something. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if we really needed too much of an excuse to look at really gorgeous art. I don't, but I usually try and justify it to myself like that. Like, oh, I'm going to look at this book. It'll be useful. I don't know. I feel good about it. Yeah, he did something with some BBC TV show. I don't know exactly what the show was, but he did a lot of work with them, and some of his art was used in books that they would produce, maybe based on their episodes or something. I'm not entirely clear on that, but really a fantastic artist. I think he passed away about within the past 5 years, which is unfortunate, but really worth looking for his art. Almost all that stuff is out of, well, I want to say most of it's out of print. But, yeah, these are hardback books, gorgeous art. And I mean, if nothing else, I mean, it's kind of a cool little synopsis of the Arthurian myth, or of the retelling of the Iliad, not by Homer directly, but sort of a synopsis of it, or Robin Hood. So which is fine. I like reading about those things, right? I love reading about that stuff. Going back to a little bit more in graphic novels, then we're going to get to actual like sci-fi stuff. I have a stack of sci-fi paperbacks here, a big one that we're going to get to. I had picked up the first volume of Mike Mignola's Witchfinder and really was liking it. I told my wife, if you don't know what to get for me for Christmas, get me volume 2, right? This is volume 1. Again, these are very, very reasonable in these hardbacks. If you can just do a little bit of price hunting. And so she got me volume 2. And these are just really cool. Sir Edward Grey, and I think he fights witches. Sir Edward Grey is an agent to the Queen, from the sparkling echelons of Victorian London to the Wild West, to the murky depths of Unland. Follow the Witchfinder as he plucks the tangled webs of intrigue to face occult conspiracies, take on rampaging monsters, and discover his nemesis, the secretive Heloptic Brotherhood of Ra. I just love that stuff, right? I like pulpy stuff, which we'll find out in a second. I love pulpy stuff, and I like occulty stuff, and I like kind of horror fantasy. It hits all the right notes for me. I got a really good deal, best of Lucius Shepard, volume 1 and 2. This is volume 1. I believe this is Subterranean Press, and volume 2 as well. And these covers are just gorgeous. I mean, I know the cellophane was kind of messing with that one. I really like him. He is a very varied writer. He wrote a lot of different kinds of fantasy, and I think even sort of just fiction. I think he had a magical realism touch to his stuff. So hopefully I can get the Jaguar Hunter read, or at least some selections from that read, and talk about it. Now, we're on to the paperbacks. Here we go. We're going to just go through these little guys. I wanted to get a specific paperback book. When I did that search for Tanith Lee, I kind of found some other sword and sorcery writers that I hadn't read that I was interested in. And I kind of did a search, like, what are some of the best sword and sorcery stories, period, novels? And I kind of was like, okay, I know that one. Okay, sure. I'm like, oh, who's this? What was this? So there was one, and this is going to be into this short stack right here. So I was in a lot with those, and by itself the novel was expensive, but in this lot it was super cheap, so I picked it up. But I got a bunch of extra stuff with it. I got Pierce Anthony's Chitin? Chitin? Kite? Maybe it's Chitin. But anyways, it sounds really interesting. Pierce Anthony. Okay. A modern classic. And this says it was a Hugo runner-up, and it was one of the 5 best sci-fi novels of the year. And it was of what year, though, good sir? Why, the year was 1967. Whoo, diggity. That was a while ago, wasn't it? It sure was. I'll have to give it a try. Let's put it in a stack where I won't get it messed up. We're going to put it there. Next one. It's still got the price sticker on it. Didn't bother to take it off. A lot of these were sleeved. I just took them out of the sleeves right before this. The Stone God Awakens by Philip Jose Farmer. I like Philip Jose Farmer. Not everybody likes Philip Jose Farmer. Sometimes I feel like Philip Jose Farmer is more interested in being outrageous than he is in telling you an outrageous story. But he can tell you an outrageous story, and he has really good ideas. I don't know. I'm not always in love with everything that he does. Sometimes I feel like what he does is just like almost comedically, like outrageous, right? Like that. What's the not Tarzan story? The Feast Unknown. Yeah. I know that the Moon Knight sort of meme page on Facebook had read that this past year, was talking about it, and I was like, oh yeah, that's kind of what I thought, and that's where that story goes. Whoo. Yeah, I'm like, well, that would definitely be an entertaining book to talk about. We'll see. It's a very infamous book of farmers. Anyhow, the Stone God Awakens. He was only a 20th century scientist. His experience with atomic stasis had petrified him, but when he accidentally unpetrified millions of years later on a radically changed Earth, Ulysses Singing Bear was worshipped as a god by people no longer human. Well, that sounds interesting. There's a little bit more, but we'll let it go at that. It does sound interesting. We'll see. I mean, when I get around to this, it'd be kind of cool to check it out. Larry Niven's The World of Pavis. I'm going to say that the T is silent, or Tavis, whichever. I like the cover. I like the cover of the last one too. Right? I like that it's got a big sticker on it, but I like the use of the greens here. Oh, it's like a little. I don't know if that is a waterfall. I like the cover. Apart from the sticker, yeah, it's great. I don't know why someone would stick a damn sticker in the middle of a damn book like that, but they did. Larry Greenberg was sensitive. His telepathic tendencies had been trained and developed by working with dolphins, naturally, learning their language and teaching them English because they needed to know how to speak English with their Never mind. The trouble was that such interchange were basically emotional and could become very confusing. Oh, Larry sometimes found himself wanting to wiggle non-existent fins, just as Charlie, his favorite dolphin, found him wanting to make passes at Larry's wife. We're just going to let that go. So an interesting story, The World of Pavis, where dolphins cuckold their trainers. Never mind. Poul Anderson, War of the Wingmen. Oh, interesting. I know Poul Anderson wrote some pretty good fantasy. I think Poul Anderson did Three Hearts, Three Lions. Yeah. A lot of like the sort of like fish out of water fantasy is what I think about with Poul Anderson. Which is okay. I kind of like. I like Three Hearts, Three Lions, and I read. There was something else I read. I think maybe some short stories. So I've enjoyed Poul Anderson's stuff. I haven't read very much from him though. War of the Wingmen. When 3 Terrans, a space pilot, a planetary queen, and an obese tycoon crash landed on Diomedes, they realized that the chances of survival were quite slim. The native food was totally poisonous to humans, and the survivors had only 6 weeks' worth of supplies to get them across thousands of miles of unmapped territory to the one Terran outpost. Their only hope was to enlist the aid of the winged inhabitants of Diomedes, and these barbarian tribes cared little for the battle and glory. There was little that could induce them to worry about the lives of 3 humans. So, I don't know. Seems an interesting cover. I kind of like it. It's not like wowing me. It's pretty cool. I do sometimes just dig like really basic, cool ship design. And is this kind of, who did the cover? So this is a Larry Niven story. Larry Niven, Hole in Space. Who did this cover? Dean Ellis. Didn't he do a bunch of like ship design or something? Ooh, well, I could be wrong about that. Anyhow, Larry Niven, A Hole in Space. We're almost there, people. The alibi machine. The invention of displaced booths produced one hell of a crime wave when a man in, say, Hawaii could commit murder in Chicago and come back in the time it would have taken him to visit the men's room. He would have seemingly the perfect alibi. The police would have a problem. In this new collection of stories all about teleportation, deep space, black holes, artificial worlds, and Louis Wu, our old friend from the known space cycle, Larry Niven once again proves he's a master builder of fantastic worlds. Interesting. So it's got Larry Wu in it, huh? From the old Ring world. Old Larry. And it looks like this is a short story collection. Pretty cool. Interesting. The teleportation thing reminds me of The Star Is My Destination. So this is the sword and sorcery story that I was looking for, right? Where I got all these for about $15. Just this book I could not find by itself for less than like $30 or something. And that's Leigh Brackett's The Sword of Rhiannon. And I do like this cover. This cover is super cool. The Sword of Rhiannon. Matt Cars entered the ancient lost tomb of an iterate explorer. He emerged 1,000,000 years before as a god. Thrust into the chaos of time, he was stranded in the midst of a forgotten war for the domination of Mars, but it was a struggle in which he was destined to play a great part, for Cars found himself possessed by the god older than legend, the cursed one of Mars, Dark Rhiannon. I heard very good things about this, very positive reviews about this essentially one-off sword and sorcery book. That's sort of a sword and planet, I guess, sword and sorcery. And Leigh Brackett, her wrote a lot of sword and sorcery and science fiction, and is probably maybe best known for having written the screenplay for The Empire Strikes Back, like literally like a week or two before she passed. She sent it in. I think it was the film was sort of dedicated to her, in a sense. So I think that's pretty cool. That is an interesting tidbit, but this story came well reviewed, so I'm interested in checking this out. Now, just an assortment of paperbacks and some hardbacks. Tanith Lee collection of 2 novellas. It's The Companions on the Road, and this has Companions on the Road and The Winter Players, 2 novellas by Tanith Lee. Where do we go? Must have been like a V-stock or something. People know what V-stock is. It's kind of like a mostly they sell like video games and movies and stuff, but they have used books too. I picked up a handful of these books there. Some of which are pretty cool. I picked up Warriors of Larn by Garner F. Fox. I looked this up and said, is this any good? This is a little smaller too. It's like this paperback's just a little short. Yeah, just a little short. It's like a half-inch shorter than all the others. I don't know why. Anyways, very short. Looks like it'd be cool. People said, hey, this is a good book. I said, okay. It was cheap. So I thought, I'll get it. Okay. I saw this. I thought I kind of wanted to try one of these. And then the price was good enough, and I loved the cover. And it's a Doc Savage novel, The Red Terrors. And I love that like painted cover, just gorgeous. It's a Vallejo. It's Boris Vallejo. To the world at large, Doc Savage is a strange, mysterious figure of glistening bronze skin and golden eyes. To his amazing co-adventurers, the 5 greatest brains ever assembled in one group, he is a man of superhuman strength and protean genius, whose life is dedicated to the destruction of evildoers. To his fans, he is the greatest adventure hero of all time, whose fantastic exploits are unequaled for hair-raising thrills, breathtaking escapes, and blood-curdling excitement. Okay, so that was just who is Doc Savage. Well, there you go. That's who he is. Menace and Crimson, the Red Terrors. They came from the depths to seize an unsuspecting ship and transport its precious human cargo to their watery domain. There, in a lost, sunken world under the sea, they lived securely until they sank the wrong ship, and the Man of Bronze came to call. I love the idea of like undersea city. That just sounds awesome. Like I was like, yeah, I want to kind of read this. I think the price was good, and I was like, I want to try Doc Savage. You know, this is like I think it's under 150 pages, under 150 pages, 136 pages. So I thought, okay, cool cover. Premise sounds neat. You got a red hawk man, and a Vallejo painting. You got me. God damn it, you got me. Now, I am a big fan of a particular hero, right? Although I'm not the most well versed in this hero, really love his stuff. And so I saw that somebody had traded in like basically a bunch of the pulp stories that were written about him. He's a comic book hero, but they did novels as well. And somebody traded a bunch of those in, so I kind of tried to figure out which ones I was going. I'm going to try a couple. We're going to see how they are. So I picked up 2 of them, and they are the stories of the Phantom, and we have the Slave Market of Mulcar. So the Phantom is kind of like part Tarzan, wears a superhero costume, right? He's like a super huge, like a super popular comic book character, just not very popular in the United States. Like, I want to say that the Phantom has the longest running still, like, being in print, like being in a newspaper, like the comic strip, like still, or did, or something like that. Like, he's one of the very first superheroes. I think he came around in like in 36 or something like that, before Superman, right? He he was doing some of the Superman stuff before Superman did it. So he's like been around for a huge amount of time. He lives in the jungle. He's every Phantom like has is I think is like his son. The son of the Phantom becomes the next Phantom. There's a movie with Billy Zane. I'd like to read some of these and talk about them. I won't go into a full Phantom like gushing fest about how much I like the Phantom, right? Because I think the Phantom is neat. Maybe everybody doesn't feel that way, but I think the Phantom's neat. So sort of like I would say like part Batman, maybe a little bit of the Batman like detective-y type stuff. Like that kind of works. That's about right. Or like Dick Tracy type, like hard-boiled detective. A little bit of that stuff, and then a little bit of Tarzan. That sounds like an unusual combination. It is. But like even the way that superheroes like costumes are, like kind of like the Phantom was like one of the first ones that did it. This Phantom story was The Curse of the Two-Headed Bull. And that is the Phantom there in the trench coat. And it's his dog, Demon. I believe the dog's name is Demon. That's a hell of a name to call it, the name of your dog, right? And I think his horse's name is Hero. Usually rides a white horse named Hero. Oh, yeah, and the Phantom's thing is that he's the ghost who walks. So everybody thinks, or the advertising bill that the Phantom sort of puts out is that he never dies, right? That, you know, when the next Phantom takes over, it's like, well, you didn't kill the Phantom. He's still here, right? There's always another Phantom like ready to step into place, like a descendant. So interesting. I think at one time there were 2 Phantoms because the Phantom had twins, and there was like a brother and sister Phantom. I believe it's true. Usually in purple in the States. Usually in purple. I think in Italy or Australia, the Phantom's in red. One of the Phantom's costume is red. Another one is blue. For the States, he's purple. All right? I don't know. I really can't say why, but it looks cool either way. But these are purple Phantoms. All right? Not to be confused with the Shadow, although similar to the Shadow. Not the same as the Shadow. Not the same person. And not to be confused with the Phantom Stranger, or there was a hard-boiled detective called the Phantom, or maybe that's the Phantom Stranger, but the Phantom is his own thing. Anyways, and concurrent with the Phantom, and of course Doc Savage, we have they had this, and I was like, oh hell yeah, I want to read this, and they had a Flash Gordon novelization, and I like Flash Gordon a lot. I like pulp era fiction, and so this looked like it'd be a lot of fun. I'm like, okay, and this was cheap, and I like Flash Gordon. The Lion Men of Mongo just sounds cool. I like John Carter of Mars stuff, so I was like, oh, this is an easy sell. Easy sell. Okay. So there's all those pulpy books that I got. Omnivorous Reader did this really wonderful review of these Tanith Lee books, kind of like one being the sequel to the other. Became very interested in them and had to pick them up. In fact, I think in the video Chris just did, where it's just sort of him and I just sort of chatting casually, I mentioned these books and how I really wanted them, and I picked them up, and I did, and they look really good. Her review was so interesting. Fantastic reviews, by the way. I mean, I don't know if I said, I didn't know I didn't know that was going to be on television, so to speak. So I don't know if I would have more properly said like her reviews are fantastic, and that review really enamored me, and so I picked these books up based on that review. Thank you very much. And they're Tanith Lee, Don't Bite the Sun, and this sounds so cool. And this cover is a bit crazy. I don't know if it's consistent with the theme of the novel, but it was the first printing, so I was like, okay, I'll get that. So this sounds really good. And then she wrote a sequel called Drinking Sapphire Wine. And these are both amazing titles, by the way. And I really like the cover for this one. Really like this cover. So these are both really cool. And the idea, the Don't Bite the Sun is sort of like a dystopian utopia of sorts, right? So we're kind of think about a little, maybe a tinge of past master stuff. So it says, it's Jang, which is a slang word, and Jang is a slang word for the novel. It's not a real slang word, but it's a Tanith Lee slang word for it's in the world of the novel. Sort of like Clockwork Orange has its own slang. It's Jang to be wild and sexy and reckless and teenage. It's Jang to do daredevil tricks and even get killed a few times. You could always come alive again. It's Jang to change your body, to switch your sex, to do anything you want to keep up with the crowd. But there comes a time when you begin to think about serious things. You want to do something valid, and that's when you find out there are rules beyond the rules, and that the world is something else than all they taught you. And then it just says, Tanith Lee's awesome. This is in the brilliant author of The Birth Cave in a strikingly different style and startling different sci-fi novel. So they don't tell you anything else. So I think a potential reader would be like, Jang, but it's in bold, so I guess that's a word. But yeah, so basically this, what I understand is the main character is teenage, and they keep making you stay a teenager. And then this character doesn't want to be a teenager anymore. She wants to grow up, but they're like, no, you don't get to grow up yet. And so she's being forced to stay like immature, a little bit immature, and be reckless and silly and crazy and jaded or whatever about life. And she wants to sort of move on, and then finding like struggling with a world that doesn't want her to move on and doesn't want her to grow up. Essentially, I think that's sort of a very loose synopsis from somebody who hasn't read the book. But that's my understanding of it. And it sounded really great. The review, Omnivorous Reader's review was phenomenal. So I was like, I need to get this book. And then Chris did a review. You'll remember this. And when I saw it, I'm like, ooh, I want this book. Not only is the cover amazing, but it sounds so good. And so I didn't watch any of his reviews. Sometimes I don't watch Chris's stuff, because, or somebody who does a review of a book I really know I want to read, because I'm like, oh, well, you're going to spoil it. I don't want to know. I'll watch it when I'm done. And that's his review for Kate Wilhelm's The Abyss. And I just love this cover. I mean, it's just so surreal. I love it. Just love it. So, and I got this bundled, because it wasn't much more, with another Kate Wilhelm book called Let the Fire Fall. And this one is about... Well, it says the Star Child. The Star Child. The aliens come by the hundreds. The ship landed in the middle of an Ohio cornfield, and the people, weakened as a race by the long journey across space, came forth to the hostility of Earth's billions. But even as they came, they died. And in a few days, there was only one woman left, pregnant with an unborn child conceived under an unknown sky. Not all Earthmen were hostile, and there was one to deliver the dying woman of her child. In that delivery, set the stage for the most monstrous hoax in the history of the planet. So it goes pretty epic there at the very end. It's like, by the way, this is crazy. Anyhow, looks cool. The cover is interesting, and so it sounded cool. This is a novel. The Abyss, if you didn't see Chris's review, is two novellas, and this is a novel. And I don't know why sometimes they decide to paint when they print these books, they make the edges of the spines different colors. But this is something we need a whole lot more of. I absolutely love it when the spines are red or blue or purple or green. I just think it's like it makes the value of the book to me be like tenfold greater. Like, ooh, it's purple on the spine. No good reason. There's no good reason. And Chris sent me this book a long time ago. Not a long time ago, but a decent amount of time ago, saying this is really great. And I've read the first two stories and really like it. And I'm going to read one more before I make a decision as to whether or not I want to review them story by story, or maybe in groups of stories, or just review the whole book. And it's Zenna Henderson's The Anything Box. And it was very kind of him to send me this. It's the first story, The Anything Box, was really interesting. And so I want to talk about that. And I'm just not certain if I want to read the entirety of the book and talk about each story in one video, or if I want to sort of break it up and do like short story videos. I don't know which one I want to do, but this is really great. Collection of Zenna Henderson's short stories. So it says, the creatures of dreams come alive in the world of Zenna Henderson. There are some of them, the Grunder, a thing of horror which, if defeated, restores love. The Noise Eater, created by a child out of his fevered imagination, gobbles up anything or anyone which makes a sound. The Covidi, residents of an alien world poisoned by the intrusion of a stranger from Earth. The Beast Hill, an ordinary mound of earth, except that its grass resembles fur and doesn't move. Pretty cool, the Anything box. That last one, the Beast Hill, reminds me of the little myth that exists in that Larry McMurtry book about the Wandering Hill, which sort of presented as a Native American myth. I'm not certain. I haven't read that book, the Wandering Hill book, in a long time, and so I don't remember exactly where that myth was supposed to have come from. But I thought it was a really interesting myth, and that reminds me of that myth somehow. So there's that. And then I've been meaning to pick this up for a while. When Chris was saying he was reading some of it, and I was like, ooh, I kind of want to read some of this too. I think it's finally time to get this series, like a hard copy of it. And I had to make a decision about like the original paperbacks, which were expensive, prohibitively so. And I guess, it's what it is. Or a more recent publication, which is like all 6 books in one hardback, which seemed very cumbersome to me, right? It sounded like that Ursula K. Le Guin, like 6 books in one volume, right? That's like this thick for Ursi, which I thought was a little too much. So I found Sci-Fi Book Club publications, which have the original covers, which is something cool because the original covers are awesome. And but has them in 2 volumes for the book club edition. So it's the Blackwater series by Michael McDowell. So I've got the first one that has the first 3 books, The Flood, The Levy, and The House. And these 2 were pretty reasonable. And then the second one, The War, The Fortune, and The Rain. Except they should not have printed this in this light green because it is super hard to see. But it reuses the artwork from the original paperbacks, which I think is amazing. Right? This looks like Michael Whalen's covers for like those Lovecraft books. Well, somebody did this art, and whoever did it, kudos who did the original art, because it is gorgeous. I think that's it. I think it's all. Thank you for bearing with me as I read these books and had like an interlude of comics in the middle of comic stuff in the middle of novels. But yeah, great stuff. All this stuff is neat, right? All this stuff sounds cool. Yeah, so definitely want to read some Phantom stuff and talk about that because I love the Phantom. I like the Phantom as a character, and it'd be fun to read those novelizations and see how that turns out. And then, the book Chris gave me was, we did like a little bit of a, did we do a trade? We did like a little bit of a trade, or we didn't do a trade. The Zenna Henderson book is really great. Really appreciated getting that from Chris. It was pretty cool. And it was kind of like, ooh, I need to read this. How do I want to do this yet? But I read the first story is the Anything box, and it was really good. I really liked it. And I guess I get just kind of bringing these books, carting these things out in front of you, talking about them, taking too long to talk about it. But anyhow, that's it. It was just sort of like a haul. I don't even know if it's really a book haul. It's more like a book show. I got these things more recently than not. So that's it. Thank you very much. Like and subscribe. That's the thing you can do. You can like and subscribe. It helps us grow. We're getting real close to a K. We're getting real close to 1K subs. That'd be pretty cool. Did not seem very attainable for a very long time, so it's pretty cool to get so close now, huh? Like I'm talking like we're having a conversation. Thank you very much. Like and subscribe. We're getting real close to 1K subscribers, which is pretty awesome. It feels pretty cool. And of course, thank you very much for everybody who's doing that stuff anyways, right? That's all the people so it's definitely a massive appreciation for the people who are already here, who are already watching this stuff, already spending their time watching me talk about books. I really appreciate it. That's it. That's all I got. I don't know. There's just books everywhere. There literally are books everywhere. Yeah. So all these things I want to read about. I mean, I definitely am interested in that Michael Shea Niflheim. That's why I showed it first. That book looks really cool. I want to get the other ones, but I'm like, they're not cheap either. Good Lord, they're not cheap. And I'm not going to spend that money until I know I like the first book. But I have a feeling I'm going to like it, which is a problem. That's it. Thanks very much. Bye.